All right, you philosophy nerds out there, buckle up. We're going deep on simultaneity today.
Ooh, simultaneity. As a philosopher, it's easy to think, yeah, simultaneity, things happening at the same time. I get it.
Right. Seems pretty straightforward.
But trust me, you're in for a wild ride.
Love it when you say that.
We're about to unpack some mind-bending physics from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Always a good time.
It'll challenge how you think about time itself.
All right, I'm hooked. Hit me with it. What's this whole conventionality of simultaneity thing all about?
Okay, so before Einstein rocked our world, most folks thought simultaneity was absolute. Like two things happen at the same time, boom, done deal. Universal fact.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, seems intuitive. But then Einstein comes along with his theory of special relativity and basically says, hold up, not so fast.
Uh-oh. Here comes trouble.
He proposed that simultaneity is actually relative, not absolute.
Relative. So, like, it depends on your point of view.
Exactly. It's all about your frame of reference.
Whoa, how does that work?
Think of it like this. Picture a light ray traveling between 2 points, A and B.
Okay, got it.
Now, Einstein's idea of standard synchrony uses the travel time of that light ray to define simultaneity.
So if something happens at point A when the light starts and something else at point B when it arrives.
Those two events are simultaneous in the standard synchrony framework.
Ah, okay, I see. So we're using the speed of light as a sort of universal clock.
Precisely. But here's where it gets really interesting. Philosophers like Reichenbach came along and said, well, hold on, we could define simultaneity in other ways, too.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he showed that you could have multiple definitions of simultaneity and still be consistent with special relativity.
So two people could disagree about whether two things happen at the same time and both be right.
Yep. Crazy, right?
That's going to make for some interesting debates.
You bet. It's a philosophical headache, for sure.
So I got to ask, did any philosophers try to find an objective way to determine simultaneity? Like some sort of true simultaneity that doesn't depend on these conventions?
Oh, absolutely. They tried all sorts of clever things, using physical phenomena, laws of physics.
Like what?
Well, think about, say, a particle explosion. Two particles shoot off in opposite directions at the same speed. They reach their destinations simultaneous. Seems pretty solid, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's the problem?
The problem is all those attempts, while clever, still snuck in hidden assumptions.
Ah, I see. They were basically just repackaging the conventions they were trying to avoid.
Exactly.
Okay, so even grounding simultaneity in something physical doesn't solve the problem. But what about Malamant's theorem? Doesn't that argue against conventionality of simultaneity?
Now, Malamant's theorem, that's where things get really interesting. It takes a more abstract approach.
Oh, how so?
Instead of relying on specific physical stuff, it tries to define simultaneity using the concept of causal connectability.
Causal connectability.
Basically, two events are simultaneous if they can't cause each other, and this is all within an inertial frame, a perspective where someone is moving at a constant speed.
Right, inertial frame. Got it. So how does this causal connection tie into simultaneity?
Well, Malamant's theorem shows that if you accept certain things about causality and space-time, standard synchrony is the only way to make sense of simultaneity within this causal framework.
Interesting. So does that mean, case closed, standard synchrony wins?
Well, not so fast. Even theorems have their critics.
Of course, it wouldn't be philosophy without some healthy debate.
Exactly. Some philosophers say the assumptions in Malamant's theorem are just as arbitrary as any other convention.
So even with a fancy theorem, we're still not out of the woods.
Nope. Plus, it might still allow for different synchronies relative to each observer. That throws a wrench in the idea of one universally agreed upon simultaneity.
Okay, so simultaneity is relative. Our sense of now might not be universal, and it's causing all sorts of philosophical chaos. Where do we go from here?
Well, that's a question we'll tackle in part 2 of our deep dive.
So we've established that simultaneity is way more slippery than we initially thought. But what are some of the more radical implications of this idea? You mentioned something about faster-than-light signals.
Ah, yes. Imagine if those hypothetical particles called tachyons actually existed.
Tachyons, those are the ones that are supposed to move faster than light, right?
That's right. Now, I know it sounds like we're venturing into sci-fi territory
A
here.
little bit, yeah.
But stick with me. If we could send signals faster than light, it would completely change our understanding of simultaneity as a convention.
Okay, I'm listening. How so?
Well, think about it. A signal could arrive at its destination before it was even sent.
Whoa, hold on. That's messing with my sense of cause and effect here.
Exactly. It challenges our whole understanding of causality. If effects could precede their causes, it would throw everything we thought we knew about time out the window. And this isn't just some idle speculation either. Physicists and philosophers have been grappling with the theoretical implications of faster-than-light travel and non-standard synchrony for decades.
So even if we haven't actually found any tachyons yet, the very possibility of their existence has huge philosophical implications.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what other aspects of our reality might be based on conventions or hidden assumptions that we're not even aware of.
It's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
It can be, but it's also exciting. It means there's still so much to explore and discover about the universe. Let's take Melaman's theorem, for example.
Okay, back to Malamud's theorem.
Even if we accept its conclusion that standard synchrony is the most natural way to define simultaneity within the causal framework, it still leaves some big philosophical questions unanswered.
Such as?
Well, for one thing, Melaman's theorem relies on the idea that simultaneity is an equivalence relation.
Equivalence relation. Remind me what that means again?
Sure, it means it has to be reflexive, symmetric, and transitive.
Okay, I vaguely remember those terms from logic class.
Basically, any event must be simultaneous with itself. If A is simultaneous with B, then B is simultaneous with A, and if A is simultaneous with B and B is simultaneous with C, then A is simultaneous with C. But some philosophers question whether these properties are truly fundamental to the nature of time or just convenient assumptions that we've imposed.
So even if Malamud's theorem narrows down the possibilities for defining simultaneity, it doesn't necessarily solve the whole philosophical puzzle.
Exactly. We're still left wrestling with fundamental questions about the nature of time and causality. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion only to find more layers underneath.
And each layer is more mind-bending than the last.
That's the beauty of it. It's a never-ending journey of exploration and discovery.
Okay, so let's get back to this whole simultaneity thing. We've learned that it's not as simple as we thought, and our sense of now might not be this universal absolute.
Yeah, it really throws a wrench into things, doesn't it? And it brings up all sorts of other philosophical questions like, what does this mean for the idea of cause and effect?
Right. If two events could be simultaneous or not, depending on your frame of reference, could that mess with the order of cause and effect?
It definitely challenges our usual way of thinking about it. I mean, we tend to assume that causes come before effects.
Right. That seems logical enough.
But if simultaneity is relative, it gets a lot harder to say for sure which event caused the other.
So could we be talking about, like, completely changing how we understand how the universe works?
It's possible, and it gets even trickier when you bring in the concept of free will.
Oh, yeah. How does free will fit into all of this?
Well, if our perception of time is relative, does it even make sense to talk about free will in that context?
Whoa. That's a pretty deep question.
It is, and it's just one of the many philosophical puzzles that this whole discussion about simultaneity brings up.
It's like we've opened up this Pandora's box of really complex questions.
Exactly, but that's what's so great about philosophies. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and really think critically about how we understand reality.
I mean, it's a bit humbling, right? We think we have a grasp on things, and then something like this comes along and just turns everything upside down.
It definitely keeps us on our toes, and it reminds us that there's always more to learn and explore. These are open questions. There's no easy answer.
It's an ongoing conversation.
Absolutely. So what are some of the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, for me, it's a sense of humility. We need to be open to the idea that even our most basic assumptions about the universe could be wrong.
I like that. It's about embracing the mystery and admitting that we don't have all the answers.
And that's what keeps philosophy so fascinating. It's a process of constant exploration and discovery. As you continue to learn and grow as a philosopher, keep these questions about simultaneity in mind. How does it all connect to our understanding of cause and effect? What about free will? What does it tell us about the nature of reality itself? This whole deep dive has given me so much to think about. I might need to revisit some of those classic philosophy texts with a fresh perspective.
I highly recommend it. And always remember, even the most basic concepts can be incredibly complex and open to different interpretations. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those philosophical gears turning.
Great advice. Well, thanks for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of simultaneity. It's been a wild ride.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time, keep on pondering the mysteries of the universe.